Before we get to our show, here is a podcast we think you're going to love.
Do you like feeling like you're a part of a conversation? Do you like listening to two idiots ramble about random nonsense? Do you like listening to people find the answers to the questions you thought you'd never ask? Well, in that case, you have really weird taste. But also, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Luna's Story. That's me. In this podcast, I do exactly what I just said. We answer weird questions, talk about my trans experience, talk about current events, and just have so much more all-around fun. So come join me, and sometimes my girlfriend Demi, here at Luna's Story. That's Luna's Story on any given podcast platform. Hope to see you there.
Hello and welcome, 5 listeners, friends and enemies, gather around. It's time for Perhaps It's You, your favorite unofficial Unsolved Mysteries rewatch podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Samantha.
We are in the frozen state of Minnesota here to provide free entertainment for you. You're welcome.
For you and BD Wong.
Yeah. Be sure to reward us by slamming that subscribe button. Slam it so hard your finger hurts just like a little bit. And also be sure to leave us a 5-star review, the only type of review we accept.
I do think maybe we need to start putting that up front at the beginning of the episode, because I feel like maybe people skip the end and maybe forget they don't know the rules. We have a very strict rule here at Perhaps It's You that we only accept 5-star reviews.
Yes, and I will not tolerate people breaking that rule.
If you leave us a criticism, that's fine, as long as it's 5 stars. But if it's 1 star, there's going to be a lot of memes made about it, and
many memes.
It's just the way it is.
We will find a way to turn that negative 1-star review into cold hard cash, which is my kink. How are you doing, Samantha? I am tired. Maybe you can tell from my voice, everybody.
Same.
I know Samantha is tired because I got a text from her at like 2 a.m. and Samantha goes to bed at like, I don't know, 9. So I didn't expect her to be up.
It sounds like an exaggeration to say that I go to bed at 9, but it's actually true. That is between 9 and 9:30, I'm asleep. But yeah, I've been waking up in the middle of the night a lot lately, which is just like, I don't know, pandemic, life, whatever. Probably all of the above. But yeah, I wake up in the middle of the night and sometimes I make the mistake of looking at my phone. And if I see something on my phone that like sucks me in, something on Twitter. Last night it was videos of that plane engine that caught on fire.
Yeah, weird. Very weird.
Far too long. And then I'm just like awake. Like I do this to myself.
You shouldn't look at that knowing you're not totally comfortable with flying. That's the last thing you should be looking at.
No, but you're talking to the person that's seen every episode of Air Disasters.
I know.
I know. I can't stop. It's like, I don't know, there's some kind of intersection in my brain where it's like scared of flying, have to know everything about every air disaster in history.
Yeah, I'm sure that feels...
I can't control it.
Protective in some way. But I don't want you to, I don't know, expand this fear because I have dreams of various trips we're going to take. So,
but you know what? Actually, I feel like all of my air disaster viewing has helped, because as soon as I saw that I think it's United Airlines flight, their engine blew up or whatever, I was like, oh, a plane can fly in one engine, they're fine, and they landed fine. I mean, if I was in the plane, I'd probably fucking losing my mind. But
I don't think you need a fear of flying to be scared when one of the plane engines is on fire.
Well, true.
I think anybody would be scared in that situation.
Especially if you've seen the videos, that's terrifying.
It's kind of intense, yeah.
But yeah, it's my own fault. I'm awake at 3 a.m. watching airplane videos on Twitter.
Do you use those blue blocker sunglass thingies?
I have a pair, like that you wear at your computer.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering if you're looking at your phone in like the middle of the night because you can't sleep, that might,
Oh, I never considered.
keep you from sleeping even more. But I don't have those glasses. I probably should.
I do have a pair that I will wear sometimes. I had that when I worked in an office where there was more fluorescent light. I got more eye strain than I do now. Now I have
Sure.
the benefit of being in my house, which has, nice big window over here, a lot of natural light. So I don't reach for them as often as I did when I was in the office, but I never considered using them for something like that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to look at your phone before bed, but that's like just a thing I can't.
Oh, I can't.
I can't. Yeah, I clearly have no willpower.
If you're not
Because
doom scrolling before bed, are you even?
are you even going to bed?
Yeah.
Are you really sure that that's?
You should be sitting there with a book, right, or something like that,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
But that's not me. I'm gonna be doom scrolling until I can't keep my eyes open anymore.
My mom has been reading like 5-10 hours before bed. That's probably a
Told me
much,
that, and I can't wrap
much,
my head around that.
much healthier life. Apparently, her dog wants to go to bed at like 6:30, so she's like, "All right," and she gets ready for bed, and we'll just like be in bed and read for hours until
What
she
a
actually wants to
life.
go to sleep. I know it's actually a really solid idea.
No wonder she's read every werewolf romance in print. That's a
I
lot of
mean,
reading.
yeah, she's been doing a ton of reading over the pandemic, even for her. So if you've got some werewolf romances you want to send our way, there's an address on our website, perhapsitsyou.com, for, fan mail, assorted gifts,
Yeah.
Fabergé eggs, whatever you want to send along.
Fabergé. Could you imagine someone sent us a Fabergé egg?
I would sell it later that day, but I'll take it. Should we talk about our ghost hunting class that we took?
Oh, we definitely should, because I think it ties in really nicely with this month's Patreon episode.
That's true. So on Thursday, we're recording this on a Sunday, Samantha and I did a very quick 1-hour Zoom class through Magus Books here in Minneapolis, which is like an occult bookstore. And the topic was ghost hunting. And it was led by two women who have apparently 20 years of ghost hunting experience. And I guess the point of it was to just like talk about the equipment used and like kind of what's different in real life versus TV. And the
Yeah, like an
point,
intro to ghost hunting is what it seemed like. They gave us some tips on getting started or like how to talk to clients, things like that.
yeah, yeah. And their main point seemed to be that real life ghost hunting is so much more boring than
So
it
much
is
more boring.
on TV, because a lot of times just nothing is happening and you're just like sitting around in total silence. What did you think of the class?
I wish it was longer. Honestly, I wasn't
Same.
expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, to be honest. I really liked it. I had so many more questions that I didn't really get a chance to ask. I really liked it. They were really nice
They were
ladies.
so nice.
It was like you described the class as wholesome when we were done, and that's so true because it was
was
absolutely wholesome.
very wholesome, and I feel like I say this a lot, but like very Minnesota to me, where someone, maybe it was you, did you ask about how they felt about people on TV like yelling at ghosts?
Yes, that was my question.
Yeah.
I only got one question in. Well, I got two questions in. My first one was because they showed some video clips, and one of the video clips they were just like kindly asking the ghost some questions, and I was like, I gotta know. The goss. I gotta know the juicy details. Like, what do they? And I didn't say Zach Baggins, but I kind of wanted to. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to know what they think about Ghost Adventures and like these broy, like yell at ghosts type situations. So I was just like, how do you feel about TV shows where they yell at ghosts and demand that they scratch them or whatever? And their response was the most Minnesota response I could imagine, where they were basically just like, that's kind of rude. We don't yell at ghosts. We treat them like people because they were people when they were alive. They're still people now they're dead. And I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
They were basically like, why would we yell at them? We're in their space. We're just here to like have a polite conversation. And if we're nice to the ghosts, they're nice to us. And I was just like, this is so Minnesota. Like, we have to be neighborly to these ghosts. We live together. We're all part of a community. Like, obviously, I'm not going to yell at ghosts. That might start an argument. No, thank you.
They didn't even seem like they wanted to say anything bad about, like, the mean ghost, because they, like, hinted at it a few times. Like, the follow-up to that was one of them, I forget which one, said that they had been scratched once before, and I was like, "Oh, so you've been scratched. Do you feel like that would," because they basically said that everything on TV is treated like demonic all the time. That's
Right,
just not
right.
true. And I was like, "Well, do you feel like that experience was a demonic entity or was a malicious entity?" And they were like, "No." And they talked about this woman. They thought it was this woman's mom who they were doing this investigation for. And she talked about how they didn't have a good relationship and she was kind of like not a nice person in real life, which to me means that like she wasn't a really nice person dead and scratched her. It's kind of a mean thing to do, but they were so nice about the way they talked about this
They were just like,
person.
yeah, it was just a very mild scratch. I wasn't even aware that I was scratched at first. You know, it's like a ghost scratched you. You don't have to make all these excuses for the ghost, but
Right? I mean, it seemed like it was kind of a rude thing that ghost to do, but yeah.
it was yeah, they were very polite about it. A couple of things I thought were interesting about it was they talked about how most of the time when they're called in for, they do both homes and businesses, but most of the time when they're called in, there is a reasonable explanation. They said 90% of the time they ghost hunters don't consider it a haunting, and that they would say something like, well, yeah, of course these pictures keep falling off the wall because you are slamming the door. You
Right,
know,
or
it was
they
like
it was a little paranormal home investigator. They said that they'll bring a
yes.
level with them if there's like, "Oh, this door always opens." They'll put a level on the ground, be like, "Well, maybe it's not really perceptible to us, but as you can see, it's like the floor isn't level, so that's why the door keeps opening." And I'm like, "This is paranormal home
It
investigation."
really was. That was very interesting to me that most of the time they say, "Sorry, this isn't a haunting." And sometimes people are really disappointed, like because maybe there's someone they wanted to connect with or they just like thought it would be cool and they're like, "No, no, it is." And these people are like, "Yeah, sorry, you just have like a draft. You don't have a ghost."
Yeah.
The other thing I thought was interesting was they talked a little bit about residual hauntings, which I guess
Yeah.
we've seen some examples of, but I don't know that I was familiar with that word. But it's when sort of energy is trapped in a home and it's almost like a recording. Like you're seeing something from a traumatic incident like being replayed.
Yeah, I think their example was at Gettysburg, where,
Yeah.
like, you'll go there and you might see someone in, like, period clothing that's not, like, an actor or whatever, that's obviously a ghost, but you can't interact with them because it's just, like, a recording of that traumatic energy.
And I feel like there's probably been a few cases we've talked about on Unsolved Mysteries that would be considered that type of haunting, but I wasn't familiar with that word. If anybody has a book recommendation that would teach me about different types of hauntings and different types of spirits, I would be interested so that I slightly know what I'm talking about, which was also the reason that we took this class.
That was the question that I wanted to ask that we ran out of time, but I wanted to know, like, their personal experience with the different types of entities, because I think they said there was it 3? There was residual, there was poltergeist, or was there 4? Was there one I'm not remembering? And then there was the rare one, which I think they just classified as, like, other or, like, unexplained, which I think, like, maybe demonic entities would fall into that, things like that. And I wanted to know, like, they said you almost never see the 3rd one, and I wanted to, especially that one, I was like, "Have you ever seen one?" Like, did you ever go into a place where you think it was inhabited by this 3rd type of entity? Yes, but I you know, I knew of poltergeist as a type of haunting, but I never really thought about, like, these other types of entities. So that was interesting to me, and I kinda wanna know more.
It, not to maybe be too rude about it, but it did sort of seem like in their 20 years of ghost hunting, they showed us some like recordings and examples. Not super impressive.
Okay, that was my one comment and critique, was I thought the same exact thing, because they showed a few recordings where they described what they were hearing, and I did not hear
No,
it at all. And
I
they played
didn't
it a
hear
few
it.
times, I put my headphones in, I'm like, "I don't hear the words you are saying." And then there was one video they showed from, like, a security camera that was, like, clearly probably a bug, I don't know. It did move a little bit oddly, and they described, it as, like, they had sent it to an entomologist and they didn't know what it was or whatever. But I was kind of like, is this it? Like, you don't have a full body apparition photo or something to show us? Like,
No,
uh,
I I mean, I think that's fine. I don't know that like discredits it, but it wasn't very impressive. I mean, I think they were more interested in confirming for the owners whether or not something was haunted and if they needed to like clear the energy to the other side or whatever.
True.
I don't know that they're like seeking out to prove the existence of ghosts. Like clearly they believe in ghosts. And they did strike me as very honest people. Like I don't think they're like out to trick
They weren't
people into I got the sense that particularly if most of the time they're telling people this isn't haunted, your door is just slanted. Yeah, it was interesting. I'm gonna say I don't know that it was like really worth $20, but honestly, but if that like keeps the bookstore open, I mean, so be it. It's fine.
Right. It was a fine way to spend an hour on a Thursday afternoon. They seemed like really nice ladies. I would, post COVID, I'd love to go on a ghost hunt with them. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
that would
And
be fun.
we've talked about a ghost tour we did in Anoka, Minnesota previously, and how I want to retire in Anoka, Minnesota, the birthplace of modern Halloween. And apparently, like, everything there is haunted, just everything, which is hilarious to me.
They talked about this like client ghost hunter confidentiality that they had, which I was kind of a little disappointed. I kind of wanted some juicy details about
I
places
know,
around town that
I
are
know.
haunted, and they were like we never talk about places we've investigated. There was like this business they kept referring to that was like supposedly a manufacturing place that's like apparently a big business in Minnesota that's super duper haunted, and they wouldn't say what it was, and I was kind of like, spill the deets, but whatever. There's like confidentiality.
It's 3M, isn't it?
I mean, you gotta wonder.
Yeah, but they were saying that people, particularly for businesses, might not want people thinking of their business as haunted. Though I feel like that could only be a boost for your business, but maybe not. Maybe it depends on
Maybe
what.
not if it's 3M.
Maybe not if you're running a daycare. So maybe that was another reason why they couldn't show us some more spectacular findings.
Yeah,
but
maybe. That's true. That's true. But yeah, we asked why they thought Anoka was haunted. Because they were like, well, everywhere's haunted in Anoka, so we can talk about it. And we were kind of like, why do you think that? And they thought maybe it was the convergence of the two rivers being right there.
Apparently everything just along all of the Mississippi is haunted. That seems
Which
like
is
a lot of hauntings, but
a lot. Yeah, a lot.
I mean, I guess there's been a lot of people. There's more ghosts every day.
It's true.
Do we talk about Unsolved Mysteries now?
I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So we're on season 6, episode 9, which that just boggles my mind. We are? All right. Well, you can watch this on the good old YouTubes for free if you want to follow along, but this episode is kind of meh.
I kind of wouldn't recommend this one, to be honest.
Yeah. We're starting off with a wanted, which Robert Stack refers to as one of law enforcement's worst nightmares. 3 criminals on the road with a truck full of weapons and nothing to lose. So that tells you what this is going to be. So this is the story of 19-year-old Travis Wade Duncan, who back in 1992 was an apprentice auto mechanic in Seminole, Oklahoma.
Can we talk about how Robert Stack claims that in this family's 100-year history, no one had ever had any run-in with the law?
Yeah, he's making this like sort of weird classist statement about how, or maybe not even, maybe it's just weird.
It was, I thought, just kind of weird. I mean, they painted this Travis guy as like, he's just naive, he's law-abiding, and then he goes on to, spoiler alert, murder someone.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and guess what? This guy's white. It's definitely an advantage to be like, no one in his family had committed a crime in hundreds of years, and yet then Travis came along.
It seems really unlikely that no one had gotten caught.
I mean, it just seems like totally irrelevant and not something we've talked about with other people.
No.
But
how do they know? How does his family know that no one has ever committed a crime in the whole history of their family?
Descendants, I just want you to know I've done plenty of jaywalking. So you're wrong. You come from a family of hardened criminals like myself.
I stole a Wet n Wild nail polish from CVS
Oh my god,
as a
Samantha.
teenager.
That's
So
gonna pollute your whole family
it's
tree.
true.
I hope
Can't
you're
say that my whole family's never committed a crime.
Yeah, you're right. That's super weird, and I don't know what the point of that was. Even okay, also they were like, he was a good guy. He hadn't been in trouble with the law for a year. I was like, wow, a whole year. He had previously gotten into quote a minor legal scrape in Texas.
What does that mean? A
I don't
minor
know.
legal scrape. Sounds like he's the one in the family that's committed crime.
Yeah, I don't know. But Samantha, he hadn't been convicted of any crimes for a whole year. So look, he was a good dude.
Okay.
But by June of 92, he was arrested for stealing guns from his employer.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. He told the authorities that he actually bought the guns and he had no idea they were stolen from his boss. But the problem comes about that he couldn't afford bail, as many people can't, and so he was sent to county jail. At this point, we get a terrible mustache. This is on Deputy Withers, which of course that's his name. It's the straggliest, sparsest mustache you ever saw.
It was not good. Not good.
Ugh. I called it the preteen. I hate it. This is a mustache you would expect to see on a kid that's like 12, except this is a full-grown man.
Well, he's trying to get respect in the department.
Well, it's never going to come with that stash. Okay. So back to the story. Travis is sent to jail where he meets 19-year-old John Fisher, who is considered, quote, charismatic and crazy. So this guy is supposed to be the foil. See, Travis, despite his one legal scrape, good guy, right? A good guy easily corrupted with his naivete. But here we have John Fisher, hardened criminal for being both charismatic and crazy. And apparently his goal in life was to be the drug lord of Oklahoma. Which I hope he had like a vision board for that. I hope he woke up every day and looked at like a picture of himself sitting on a pile of money doing drugs and was like, one day, John.
He has
You just
magazine clippings, glued
Yeah.
to his scrapbook.
Yeah, he's like, you just keep reaching for that rainbow. One day, you're going to be the drug lord of Oklahoma and Oklahoma only. Just you wait. So he would often spin wild tales to tell other prisoners of all the money he had and connections. Unfortunately, according to Unsolved Mysteries, Travis Duncan was an easy mark. I guess just, they're like, look, this guy was naive as hell. He would believe anything. Which led to the two forging, quote, an unholy alliance.
What is this language they're using in this episode?
I don't know.
An unholy alliance?
Was someone related to Travis? So they were just like trying to give him a good. He was corrupted by this.
That really makes you wonder. I feel like I'm sometimes generally naive, and I still feel like I wouldn't be easily convinced to do what Travis does in this episode.
Samantha, do you think that you and I have formed an unholy alliance?
Maybe. I mean, we are killing people with our voices.
You know what? We definitely have. Okay. So Travis's parents at this point get a better lawyer and his bail is reduced on the condition that he would live with his mother and father. So they post bail for him, but Travis didn't like these conditions because he wanted to go back to his own apartment or something. So he steals his sister's pickup truck and just drives off. At this point, he loads up the truck with pistols, shotguns, Molotov cocktails, camping equipment, food, and water.
Not good Molotov cocktails, as we'll see later.
No, I'm not sure he knew a ton about how to make Molotov cocktails, but he tried. So the next day, he goes to the jail while a prisoner is like taking out the trash while under guard. All right. And then that prisoner is like, hey, can I go see Travis's pickup truck? And the guard is like, absolutely not. Why would I let you go do that? And then Travis is like, hey, you want this carton of cigarettes? And while he's handing them to the prisoner, he pulls a gun on the guard. He then makes the guard go inside and puts him in a jail cell, locks him up, and makes him take off his uniform shirt so Travis can wear it. He then gets the keys. He was going to, like, free all the prisoners, but I think most of them were probably in there for pretty minor offenses, and they were like, yeah, no thanks. So only Timothy Johnson was willing to join in the jailbreak. It took about 30 minutes to be aware of the escape because the guard was locked up and couldn't alert anybody. And so we hear from this, like, I don't know, extremely deputy looking man. Like, of course, this guy is in law enforcement, like wearing his, like, I don't know, law enforcement cowboy hat, whatever that's called.
Yeah, was this a sheriff? I didn't
Yeah.
understand why he was wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah, it's odd. But then he's like, look, we expected there to be a jailbreak from the inside, but we never expected someone from coming from the outside. And I was like, it sounds like you're not very good at this.
Sounds like you were a little unprepared. You were just letting this guy walk around outside.
Yeah, you for some reason have prisoners take out the trash while someone's guarding them, and I don't know, whatever. They probably should have considered that maybe someone would try to break someone out of jail, but whatever. They did set up roadblocks, but they, well, now we get a reenactment of Travis and John and this new guy Timothy like speeding down the road in this truck while they're like shooting at the cops and throwing these Molotov cocktails that don't actually explode. I'm not sure if they're throwing them like too soon or
Not
they're
lighting them or what? They
yeah,
call them homemade explosives, at least Robert Stack does, and it looks like a cartoon, like giant cylinder with a wick, basically. But I assumed that was the Molotov cocktail in reality.
yeah, I think so. I think it was just a bottle and some booze or accelerant and a wick, and it it didn't work. It's probably poor naive Travis. That's probably his first Molotov cocktail, and he didn't have hardened criminal grandparents to teach him how to do it right. So
Could you imagine if he did? Little baby Travis was just being shown how to light a Molotov cocktail by his
everyone
grandpa.
teach your children and your grandchildren. They
Gather
might even
around,
know.
kids. It's time
They
to
might.
learn how to light Molotov cocktails.
I think that's a necessary life skill. They should absolutely be taught that. So they just drive through the roadblock at 100 miles per hour. Doesn't stop them. So they're chased. And Fisher's like leaning out the window, shooting at cars with a shotgun, blah blah blah. So eventually they're derailed because they crash through this heavy steel gate and it runs the car off the road and they flip over. And at this point, a giant firefight breaks out, but no one was wounded despite 70 rounds being fired. So it sounds like both sides were pretty bad shots. At this point, the three escapees run into the woods, but what they don't know is that now they're trapped in a peninsula, and that the woods they're in is actually this peninsula that's jutting into a lake. So at this point, some officers come on a boat and they capture John and Timothy. So when they're captured, they claim that Travis is really dead in the woods. But in actuality, he had gone off on his own. So they do a massive search for 3 days and they file to find Travis. What they do find is a decomposed male body of a camper that was killed around the same time that Travis went into the woods. The theory that they were operating with was that Travis swam across the lake, murdered the camper, and stole his truck.
And the camper was shot in the head, right?
I'm not even sure they said.
They said he was shot. I don't remember where, but I thought it was in the head. Because at first I was like, how do you know this guy didn't just die of exposure? But then Robert Stack said he was shot. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh. Well, there you go. So this was a wanted. They were basically like, has anyone seen Travis? He's a good kid who's committed murder, and we just need to set him on the right and righteous path. But from the update, we learned that in May 5th, 1994, Travis Wade Duncan is brought back to Oklahoma after being captured in Boise, Idaho. This was thanks to a viewer's tip. He had actually traveled around the country a lot, working odd jobs, and including at one point going to Hawaii. He went on to serve 8 years of a 20-year sentence. It is actually now believed that he had nothing to do with the murder of that camper, and that's just a really super weird coincidence.
Oh. There's
like
dead people all over.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you're someone else that's like camping in this area and there's like 3 escaped fugitives running around having shootouts with the police, and then also another unconnected murder. So Yeah, so John Fisher eventually, he was the hardened criminal guy. He eventually went back to prison to serve a life sentence for an unrelated murder. Timothy Johnson served his time and has since been released. I mean, it's really straightforward. I don't know who murdered that camper.
Yeah.
That's odd.
I don't know. We've had a few jailbreak mysteries. They're so boring to me. I feel like they should be more exciting. And this one has like a very exciting car chase scene, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. He's not in the run right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit pointless to watch it now because he's been captured. I think the only part I like about the jailbreak stories is if there's any sort of like clever subterfuge to escape. But this story doesn't really have that at all. So
yeah.
Then we get a really unnecessary update.
So long.
Yeah. Thumbs down to that. And then Samantha's here very briefly to talk to us about a legend. And I'm jealous I didn't get this one.
I'm jealous you didn't get this one either because I feel like you'd have way more to say about it than I do. This is the fucking Mona Lisa.
Is it real? Is there a painting called the Mona Lisa? Let's find out.
This is, a mysterious legend. Okay. And this is the mystery of the Mona Lisa. So Robert Stack tells us that the Mona Lisa is a famous and iconic portrait of an enigmatic woman painted against a pastoral background. Possibly one of the most recognizable paintings by Leonardo da Vinci.
It's one of the most recognizable paintings, period. Yeah.
So, I apologize to anyone if this is your favorite mystery. I have very little to say about it, but this is the gist. So basically, there is new evidence with computers that are taking a look at the Mona Lisa, and we're trying to figure out if it's really a self-portrait of Leonardo da Vinci.
This is so pointless.
It really is, but here we go.
So I was so excited for like an art-related mystery, which I love, but then this is like, I don't know. It's just basically going, do painters paint paintings? Yes.
So the Mona Lisa, like I said, one of the most famous portraits from the Renaissance. It was painted in 1519 in Paris by artist Leonardo da Vinci. No one knew who the woman was, and he took her identity to the grave. Which, is that true? I was looking it up, and it seems like we have a pretty good idea of who it was.
Oh, well, then this is even more pointless than I thought.
I'm not an art historian, but after I'm done going through my notes, I'll read you what I found on the History Channel's website.
Okay.
Okay, so centuries later, in 1986, a computer artist named Lillian Schwartz, who's interviewed for the show, started working with a new computer program that compares two digitized images.
It's seriously just lining two pictures up side by side, but computers were so slow and horrible that this is like revolutionary. She's like, what if you looked at one picture and another picture on the same screen and people were like, this woman is a computer genius. She's going to solve every art mystery known to man.
So what she did is she entered a self-portrait of Da Vinci alongside the Mona Lisa through this fancy computer program. And when the self-portrait was reversed and placed next to the Mona Lisa, a single face emerged.
I love that they show us what it means to reverse the image in case we were like, I don't know, confused about that. They're just like flip and you go, oh my God. MS Paint is such powerful software. We'll never top it.
So at this point, Lillian describes this revelation she had, and she was certain that Da Vinci had used himself as the model for the Mona Lisa. She says that everything about the face appeared to be a perfect match, including the eyes, nose, and mouth. Using a different computer, Lillian even managed to turn up the corners of the self-portrait's mouth and compare it to the Mona Lisa smile, which this looks so ridiculous. They show it on the, I don't know. I feel like you could take anyone's mouth and turn it up and just put the Mona Lisa smile over it and be like, there you go.
Samantha, you will not believe what these two faces had in common. Both of them, two eyes.
Had a nose.
A single nose. A mouth. And not only that, but they were in pretty much the same location of the face. It's an uncanny coincidence.
Yeah. So a comparison of the foreheads revealed that the supraorbital ridge on both the portrait and the paintings is found mostly in males. I don't know what that means.
Okay. That sounds
Uh,
like phrenology bullshit to me, but
kind of does. I can't say it's not, but kind of does. In January of 1987, Lillian took her findings to a magazine publisher, Wick Allison. He was initially skeptical, but after reviewing her scientific observations, he felt that the theory was correct.
her scientific observations that are basically a collage of
Yeah.
putting two pictures side by side.
So others
Ah!
are skeptical.
Ah!
So they believe that the self-portrait of Da Vinci used in the comparison may have actually been a forgery. Not sure about that. They believe that the Mona Lisa was not a self-portrait, but was actually the portrait made for a wealthy Renaissance woman. Lillian continued to look for evidence to support her theory. She found a drawing of an Italian duchess named Isabella that was believed to have been a preliminary sketch for the Mona Lisa. Measurements of the Duchess's drawing matched an undersketch of the Mona Lisa. She believes that Da Vinci started with Isabella and then used his own face to complete the portrait.
I mean, we have some women say, like, oh, but that goes against Da Vinci's philosophy that you shouldn't be putting yourself into paintings. People do that all the time because guess what is always around? Your own face.
Yeah.
So,
Also,
I
here's another big problem with it, which they tell us in the episode, is that the self portrait of Da Vinci would have been way older. The one that she used, the self portrait, would have been way
yeah.
older than he was at the time he painted the Mona Lisa. So he wouldn't have even looked like that yet.
Hmm.
So I don't
Yes,
really understand. He didn't come out of the womb looking like that.
even at a young age, he did have two eyes and a
It's
nose
true,
and a
and a
mouth.
nose. So
So it's kind of uncanny, Samantha.
yeah, I guess. So I'm looking at the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, which does say that this is solved, but apparently this is much later. So in 2005, the Mona Lisa was finally identified as a woman named Lisa del Giocondo after researchers discovered a margin note written by a friend of Leonardo's that said that the portrait was of Lisa.
Oh,
And
there you
this
go.
is what
Mystery
the
solved.
History Channel says about it. Over the years, scholars have debated the true inspiration behind the most famous half smile in history, and possibly even the world's most recognizable face. Proposed sitters for the Mona Lisa have included a whole bunch of people that I don't recognize their names and probably can't pronounce. But eventually, Lisa Gerardini del Giocondo, a wealthy silk merchant's wife and the mother of 5 children, has been the leading contender since an art historian identified her as the sitter in 1550, more than 4 decades after the iconic painting's completion. The 2005 discovery of a 500-year-old note by an acquaintance of Da Vinci, which states that the artist was working on Lisa's portrait, confirmed the theory for many scholars. It is thought that the Florentine beauty's husband commissioned the work to celebrate the impending birth of a child, and indeed some have chalked up the subject's enigmatic expression and loose garments to pregnancy. For reasons that remain
Ah.
unclear, Da Vinci never gave the Mona Lisa to the Giocondo family, first taking it to France and later bequeathing it to Solai.
Yeah, Robert Stack was saying, like, oh, he loved this painting so much that he carried it around with him. But what I had heard was that he was not happy with it. And
Oh,
so he,
interesting.
like, carried it around in hopes of, like, I don't know, fixing it at some
Fussing with
point.
it?
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Yeah,
But
I
I
know
don't
very little
know.
about art history, so all of this is news to me, but it's interesting.
I'm here to tell you that if on your bucket list you have see the Mona Lisa, you can pass.
I've
Don't.
heard it's not all that it's correct. It's a lot smaller than you
It's
imagine it, isn't it?
pretty small. I mean, it's not. It makes sense that this would be like a portrait in someone's home. It's really not a museum sized piece. It's just a small portrait, but it's so famous and people make such a point of going to see it that there's always a huge crowd. It's behind plexiglass now, which, there's sort of a glare. It's just hard to see. I I'm sure go to the Louvre. There's tons of stuff, but you don't need to like make it your life's mission to go see the Mona Lisa. You will live fine without having had that very brief experience of going, "Oh, huh." That's what you'll do if you see it. Oh yeah. Huh. It's the
Okay,
Mona
that's the
Lisa.
Mona Lisa. Yep.
I mean, you're not supposed to take pictures and everybody does. It's just a total shit show. So, I'm going to say skip on that.
That's good advice.
And yeah, I don't think that this woman discovered anything other than people have symmetrical faces. Both of these people were from Italy. I like what?
The fact that he was so much older when he, I mean, I guess we don't know if that self portrait is legit, but he was way older in that portrait regardless than the age he'd be when he painted the Mona Lisa. So that doesn't even make any sense. I'm not going to paint a self portrait of myself and age myself.
I also sort of feel like it's not a discovery to be like, oh, a painter used their own face for reference. It's like, yeah, that's the face that was like around.
Right.
Like if she was no longer like he had this painting around with him for years. She wasn't sitting there posing for him that whole time.
Exactly.
So he just like got out a reflective surface and was kind of like, what does the nose look like? Oh yeah. I was like, this is not a discovery.
Nah.
People have faces. That's the mysterious legend. They didn't even talk about when the Mona Lisa was stolen for a while.
That's
You think that?
Yeah, put that in there. Get rid of this update and put that in the episode.
We hear from this woman, Kathleen, and I don't remember what her job title was. She was like the person that was skeptical because it was like against Da Vinci's painting philosophy or some bullshit reason. But her rich person voice is hilarious. Is that really like her voice?
If you're an art historian, maybe you're supposed to talk like that.
I just don't know. I just don't think Da Vinci would do such a thing. I was like, that is not how you talk. Please tell me. Please tell me that's not how you talk. I mean, no, never has a man written down one thing and done something else. That's completely impossible. Okay, so we're going on to a missing persons now. This goes back to March 29th, 1990. So Stephen Marteo of Johnston, Rhode Island, came home to find his house, quote, oddly silent.
His wife,
yeah, was that odd to you, Stephen? Allegedly not. His wife of 12 years, Dorian, wasn't there, and supposedly a small suitcase, some clothes, and a few $100s from their safe were missing. I have to say, so he's like, oh, my wife's missing. She took a small amount of the money we had at home. I was like, not all of it.
That's my first red flag.
She's leaving you to start a new life, and she was like, well, it would be selfish to take more than $200.
Did you give his okay, so he's a dirtbag, spoiler alert, but did you give his mustache a name?
I would call his mustache the dirtbag.
It's a little unsettling, isn't it? That's kind of like kind of also evidence in my mind that he has this mustache.
He is unsettling, his mustache is unsettling, and they are a perfect pair. No, it's like it's so geometric.
It is.
It's like shaved into this like almost like a pyramid triangle. It's like totally ignoring the grains of the hair. Like it's like, no, I don't care what the hair wants to do. This is the shape mustache I want. I'm going to circumpose that on top. It's like, just from that, you can tell this guy is a control freak. Like, no,
that's
your
true.
face,
really tell
your
a lot about
face is fighting you. Your face is fighting you. And you're like, no, this is the mustache you'll have. Even though it makes me look like a cartoon villain. Okay. So yeah, she only took a couple $100s from the safe. But however, the car was still there and there was no note. Doreen was 35.
She left on foot with $200.
Yeah, she was like, this is enough to start a new life. Couple pairs of shoes, change of clothes, $200. She was 34 years old when she disappeared. Since then, there have been several unconfirmed sightings, but no other signs of what happened to her. Stephen apparently has spent thousands of dollars searching for his wife and is offering a measly $5,000 reward. For someone that has a home safe with money in it, I felt like $5,000 reward. Are you kidding me? $5,000? That's it? That's all you can pull together? You find your wife? All right.
Yes. It was really 4,900 and
yeah, it was like whatever she took less. I was gonna complain about the stimulus, but I'm just gonna let that go. Okay. So
not going on that road.
Yeah, where he was like, "Well, you already have 600, so actually, this reward is." Okay, so however, perhaps you've noticed a hint of skepticism in our voice, but obviously, we are not saying anything. But the police believe, this is the police now, believe that Doreen was murdered and that Stephen, as the husband, is the natural suspect. We
What?
learned that, yeah, I know. That blew
Shocked,
my
I tell
mind.
you.
I was like, Stephen, with his unsettling mustache and control issues, you're telling me he might be the suspect of this woman's disappearance? I don't know. We learned that the couple met in 1976 and married 2 years later. Stephen worked in the jewelry business. His hobbies included weightlifting and, quote, driving fast cars.
Don't trust him.
I don't even know what that, like, his own cars? I don't, what? I don't even know what that means.
Driver?
Yeah. Doreen was the purchase manager at the prestigious Rhode Island School of Art and Design. Or maybe it's just Rhode Island School of Design. Sorry. Both were outgoing and seemed well matched, but in 1989, Doreen abruptly quit her job, saying that she needed to change, which was a big surprise to everybody. Her husband claims that her behavior after this became erratic and that he thought she was on the verge of, quote, a nervous breakdown. We get a reenactment that does not make him seem very sympathetic, where Doreen is crying in the dark at night, and he comes out and is like, "Do you have any idea what time it is?" "Oh, nice to see you too, honey." But then, of course, then he's like pleading with her to tell him what's wrong, and she's like, "I can't. It's not you." I'm like, all right, sure. I like that this is like based on his account, and he still comes off seeming horrible. That like when his own wife was like sobbing, he's just like, "Do you have any idea what time it is? You're so annoying."
Dick.
I know. So after Doreen disappeared, he did nothing for 2 days, assuming that she just needed her space. She needed time to think things through. After that, he called Doreen's mother and asked if she had seen Doreen, and she was like, "Why haven't you called the police?" So that's when the police were contacted. It turned out, it comes to light at this point, that the husband had hired a private investigator on and off for the past year to follow Doreen around.
No wonder she didn't want to tell him why she was upset.
But according to Steven, they never found anything.
What were they looking for?
His rationale for this was just like he wanted to know what was wrong and she wouldn't tell him. So he went to the very natural state of hiring a private investigator to follow her.
Makes sense.
It's
not couples counseling.
Yeah, I was going to say, anyone else would go to couples counseling and like try to create a safe environment for her to talk about whatever it is that's bothering her, which might be that she wants to divorce Steven. Who knows? But instead he was like, "I'll get to the bottom of this. Hello, PI." I like that this guy has the money to hire a private investigator for basically no reason, but can offer a $5,000 reward. All right. Okay.
Well, I mean, you see, he doesn't really need to find out where she is because he might already know.
He might allegedly, possibly already know. At this point, Robert Stack tells us that the authorities had nothing but suspicions, meaning that there was no actual evidence connecting Stephen to the crime. Then, on June 13th, 1990, which is 2.5 months after she went missing, the police received 2 anonymous letters written on a typewriter. They were disparaging of Doreen's character, saying that she was cheating on her husband and calling her a harlot, which is hilarious. Let's bring that word back, please. If someone called me, if I was like, I don't know, walking down the street and someone leaned out of a car window to go, "You harlot," I would like fall down laughing. The idea of someone being like, I don't know, it just has an old-fashioned charm.
It does.
That slut and whore just don't really encapsulate quite like harlot. Ah, so beautiful. The police spoke to her coworkers about the allegations in the letters because they mentioned specific names. But all of her coworkers were super surprised and did not corroborate this information. So it seems like they weren't specific about what the letter said, but it seemed like it was saying that she was cheating on her husband with all these people from work. And then they went and talked to people at the Rhode Island School of Design. Everybody was like, "What? No, we have no idea what you're talking about." And in one of the cases, the guy she was supposedly having an affair with was like really old, so everybody was like, "Yeah, no." Which just makes me think that Steven had like heard people's names of people at work but hadn't met them.
Probably. I bet
You
that's
know what
really
I
true.
mean?
He doesn't seem like he gave a shit about.
That he's like, wait, who's someone at work? Yeah, Jim. Oh, she was having an affair with Jim. And then they go to meet Jim and they're like, okay, this guy's 80 years old. Are you telling me? I'm just making up that name, by the way. I don't know what was in the letter, but the idea of like, yeah, we really don't think she was having an affair with a super old man. This letter does not seem very credible.
No. And also, it was so cringy. Did you feel like when they were reading it, you were like, oh, yeah, what is this?
I mean, it's very like incel chat room.
Yes, that was the vibe I got.
It's very, yeah, it's creepy. But also they were like, this is clearly someone who would know Doreen really well because it had a lot of specifics, but also some of that information was wrong. So it was like, yeah, it does kind of seem like someone who just heard her talk about work and then tried to like connect pieces of a puzzle to make her look bad. And then people were like, but none of this actually, like, yeah, you know all our names, but none of this actually makes any sense. Nobody's having an affair with an 80-year-old. Like, calm down. How slightly weirdly, we hear from her sister, who does confirm that she had an affair, but it was about 10 years earlier. She had talked to her sister and her sister's husband for advice, and they sort of convinced her to stay with Steven instead of like run. I guess the person she was having an affair with was going to have to move, so she had to decide whether or not she was going to stay with her husband or move with this other person. And she decided to stay with her husband, and that seems kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. No. Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, I know. So the police did get a second anonymous letter. It accuses Stephen of the murder. However, the police still think that Stephen is the author of the letters and that he put that in there to throw them off. Which is funny to me because, like, the police are super incompetent. We see that in these cases all the time. But in this case, like, they're not being distracted by these clearly foolish things at all. Like, Stephen's like, I know what'll throw him off the trail. I'll say I did it. And they were like, oh, hi, Stephen. Like, they just immediately know that it's him, or they think that it's him anyway. I guess it's not proven. Yeah, Stephen at this point is still the logical suspect. They also find out that the first letter was written on a typewriter belonging to one of Stephen's close relatives.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So what's a little bit weird about this is both Doreen's sister and mother don't believe that Stephen did it. And they cite the fact that there's no evidence to connecting him to the crime, but also that they've seen him clamor to when the phone rings or when mail comes, as if he's like expecting news that she's still alive.
That might not be the only thing he's worried about.
Yes. What if that's like his lawyer calling to be like,
Yeah.
the police are coming for you. They know you did it. You're so guilty.
Also, from the update, I mean, okay, we have being that we're watching this in the future, we have we have some information they weren't privy to back then, considering it hadn't happened yet, but
I mean, just considering we just talked about the sister, I was like, yeah, the sister doesn't want to think he did it because she convinced her to stay with him.
Well, that's a good point I hadn't considered. Yeah, I'd feel so guilty.
Right. She doesn't want to be like, I convinced my sister to stay with a murderer. No.
Ugh,
like,
yeah.
Right? That's my theory. Okay, so the segment ends there. We do hear from this guy in the segment telling us that he didn't do it, and then just police officers being like, no, he obviously did. Like, we just need to prove it. So the update is that 9 years later, Stephen goes on to kill his ex-girlfriend, wound her boyfriend, and then commit suicide. Unfortunately, there is no update on Doreen.
No, but I mean
that does, but I mean, the guy is a murderer. We don't know what happened to Doreen. I
think it did say that like her family still thinks that she's alive, but the police believe that she is dead. They just don't have any evidence.
Okay, I'm going to read this directly from Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. We thank them so much for all their hard work. Results: unresolved. Doreen's mother eventually came to accept that Stephen was most likely involved in her disappearance. Although no trace of Doreen has ever been found, a shocking development came about in July of 1999. Stephen shot and killed his ex-girlfriend, Laura Vincent, and seriously wounded her new boyfriend, Sal Pelo. He then drove to a secluded Barks Hampstead Reservoir and committed suicide. His suicide letter mentioned that he was alive, quote, 9 years too long, which this would be 9 years after Doreen's disappearance, and that he, quote, felt guilty for Doreen's disappearance, but he did not claim direct responsibility. However, these actions seem to imply that he had something to do with it. Many detectives are certain that Stephen killed his wife, but the case cannot be closed until Doreen's remains are found. A search of the area near where Stephen committed suicide turned up no trace of her remains. I mean, that's almost a confession.
It might as. I mean, who else?
That's the thing. It doesn't seem like this woman had any enemies. She was working at an art school. It
is chilling that he's in the episode. He does have a very flat affect, which you shouldn't take as evidence, but I got a creepy vibe from him. I don't know. That's not evidence. But seriously, who else would have killed this woman? And given what he went on to do,
yeah, he's a murderer.
Yeah. So
and clearly a jealous person, and has some control and anger issues, or he did. I guess he's dead. Yeah, I feel like that's pretty solved. Clearly, the authorities are treating it as a closed case. Poor Doreen, and I wish that
she didn't get justice, but
I can't put her remains to rest or whatever. But
yeah,
it's always creepy when you hear from the person that did it or you assume did it.
Yes,
and they're just sitting there like, we've got to find Doreen, and you're like, I bet you could. I bet you could find it real quick if you wanted to.
Yeah.
All right, Samantha's got the last one.
Ugh, this one is a wanted, and we're looking for someone for tax evasion.
And Samantha's like, I don't care.
Not really. Rarstack says we're looking for someone who defrauded the U.S. government for, like, I don't know how much money. I'm kind of like, good. I don't know.
Samantha's just jealous. She's like, why didn't I think of that?
On April 6, 1993, businessman Raymond Young, his son, and several friends went scuba diving off the coast of Louisiana at the mouth of the Mississippi River. At 6 p.m., Raymond and his son decided to make one final dive. 20 minutes later, his son returned, claiming that he could not find his dad. A massive search?
Again, are you sure? You sure you can't find them?
Maybe look again.
Yeah.
To me. Okay, a massive search turned up no trace of Raymond. His family assumed that he had drowned, but the authorities believed that he had faked his drowning and is still alive.
Huh.
So Young was a flashy, self-made millionaire who owned and operated a wholesale fuel company on Marco Island, Florida.
The idea of calling someone flashy that's running a wholesale fuel business is... It's not like this guy is selling sports cars and fur coats and stuff. It's like, what do you sell? Fuel. Oh, very exciting.
I mean, we don't hear a lot about his personal life. This is a really, really short.
I bet he only gets. I'm like picturing someone like getting out of the back of a limo with two models, and people were like, "That guy's in the fuel business."
So he set up the company to distribute diesel fuel for offshore marine use. Because he supposedly sold to wholesalers only, he was exempt from paying federal excise taxes. However, when customs officials discovered that millions of dollars were flowing in and out of his personal bank accounts, they suspected that he was really scamming the government.
And he was the first person to ever do so.
They later discovered that Young was selling his fuel to retail gas stations throughout Texas. He then pocketed the money that was supposed to be paid to taxes.
Sounds like a mistake to me.
It was estimated...
Simple, honest mistake.
Yeah. It was estimated that he was stealing 40 cents per gallon. It is believed that he defrauded the government in excess of $15 million. In October of 1991, the IRS and U.S. Customs Services launched a joint investigation into Young's activities. At the time, he began to liquidate his assets. So he knew that they were like onto him. So this disappearance was conveniently timed. Eventually, the authorities charged him with 17 counts of tax evasion. However, he left Florida while the investigation was still underway. In May 1992, he resurfaced in New Orleans. They watched his Mercedes, which was parked next to a luxury yacht. Records confirmed that the boat belonged to Young.
Also, why were 4 people in a car for this stakeout? To be like, oh yeah, that's him.
I don't know. And are we going to talk about the lead lead undercover guy's neon pastel striped shirt?
Is that the guy that had the office mullet?
I think so.
His
This was
hair
a
is
little
like
CSI Miami too, with all of the with all
yes.
of the sunglasses and stuff, the mullets. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the highlight of the segment for me, honestly. Otherwise, it's super super fucking boring. So when he went to the boat, he was arrested. For some reason, Young was convinced that he would be acquitted. However, in January of 1983, he was convicted on the tax evasion charges.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he faced up to 13 years in prison, he was granted bail to clean up his personal and business affairs. It's interesting in this episode, we have two different sides of like the bail system. We have
Right.
Travis, who couldn't afford to get out on bail, which is just, enigmatic of how the system locks up poor people. And then we have this guy who like was clearly guilty, had defrauded the government $15 million, had the means to escape, and eventually does. And they're like, yeah, you can go out on bail to clean up your business affairs.
Right. There's no way there's like someone that works for you that could do that.
Right. So 2 days before he was to be sentenced, he went on the scuba diving trip and vanished. Authorities are certain that he's still alive, because of course he is. So this case was also profiled in America's Most Wanted. The result is that he was captured, but he spent 7 years on the run. He was found in Costa Rica in 2000. He was arrested and returned to Florida in April 2001. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison and since has been released. His wife, Anne, was also arrested and charged with helping him escape. Not sure if the son helped him, but seems like he
must
had
have.
to have.
I love a scuba escape. There's just something very like early 90s about the idea that he put on a scuba suit and like scuba away.
Scoop it away.
I don't know. It's so funny to me.
It is pretty funny, actually.
We were very like a little bit after the whole country being like super into surfing in the like late 80s. It was like, ooh, scuba. Like that's the cool rich person hobby thing that we aspire to, is like scuba diving. It's hard.
I love the verb to scuba away.
She scuba away. Back when there was like no young adult novels, where there was very, very few young adult novels, I was a huge fan of Christopher Pike mystery / horror novels, which had the absolute best covers ever, still undefeated. But so many of those books, clearly that guy just like liked scuba diving and knew a lot about scuba. So many of those books involve scuba somehow, and like people like attaching scuba equipment to the outsides of boats so they can like fake their own death and then scuba away. Which the idea of trying to put on a scuba suit underwater, just think about that. But yeah, it just brings me back to being very concerned about the bends. Oh no. too much oxygen in my bloodstream. So maybe one day I'll get the chance to scuba away from my problems that I don't want to face by possibly faking my own death.
You can metaphorically scuba away from your problem. Just that's what you're doing when you're like you're up at night in the middle of the night online shopping instead of sleeping. Just like, imagine that you're actually scubaing away from your problem.
I'm so glad my problems are over there and I'm in a scuba suit over here. And I'll never deal with them as I look at my scuba watch and use my bright yellow underwater camera. For some reason, we were very into things being like waterproof or ability to go in the water, which made them have to be yellow. Like a sports Walkman had to be yellow. That's how you knew that it could resist the water. I guess you can like see it. I don't know. But now I'm just, my yellow Walkman lying around in my scuba suit. It's the life. That guy did get to live on the run for 7 years. I assume drinking out of coconuts and just having like a great time, eating all sorts of amazing seafood and stuff. So, what a bastard. Yeah.
He was arrested in Costa Rica, I'm sure, on the beach.
Oh, no fair. That sounds great right now.
It really does.
All right, let's rate this episode, I suppose.
Mysteriousness.
It's not that mysterious.
No,
Is it?
I don't think so.
Is the Mona Lisa a painting?
Do
Yes,
I
it is.
care?
Check.
It's a big mystery.
Did this guy defraud the government? Yeah, he totally did. Check. Well, look, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what Steven did to his wife, but she's not around. Check.
Also, Steven isn't around, so.
Well, true. Check, check, check. And then this wanted also. Oh, this is one of the least mysterious ever.
It's
Thumbs
not mysterious.
way the hell down. I'm gonna grow extra thumbs to give this more thumbs down. No.
What do you think of the reenactments?
I actually the jailbreak reenactments were pretty
good. There was a car
good.
chase. Someone was hanging out at the side of the car shooting at police. Pretty intense.
Throwing bad Molotov cocktails, going through roadblocks and stuff. Not bad. The scuba scene could have been more dramatic, but I would have appreciated if we got some reenactments like of Leonardo painting his own face. That could have been funny.
That would have been funny.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a sideways. I feel like there's some missed opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. Fashion.
Well, we've got an office mullet. We've got a very unsettling mustache.
We have an electric neon pastel button-up shirt on an undercover cop.
Some sort of weird sheriff's hat. I'm still going with just a sideways.
I feel like it's the sideways too because despite a few highlights, it wasn't that much. And the mustaches, I mean, they're okay.
No, I'm not even. I feel like this doesn't even get an MVM. So
yeah,
no, nah, almost down, sideways tilting down.
Are those all of our categories? Robert Stack?
No, Robert Stack is barely in this.
Yeah.
Is he just going to be less and less in it as it goes on?
Yeah,
because
maybe.
he's too busy tanning by the pool and he can't be bothered to come to work.
Maybe.
He's too busy looning about scuba. He was like, oh, sounds like a great idea. Could I do that off my yacht? Yeah, thumbs down. I mean, he did help us form an unholy alliance, but other than that.
Yeah, other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, thumbs down. Boo.
And on our Robert Stack scale,
a 2? So forgettable.
I'm not going to remember this one.
So not mysterious. This is the opposite of mystery. It's just when stuff happens. It's more like errands than mystery.
Yeah, not a fan. I'll give it a 2.
Just events. Yeah, 2. It's not memorable enough even to be a 1.
No, that's true. That is really true because our 1 episodes are very memorable.
You remember how much you hate them. This we're just going to be like, he did what now? Oh, yeah, I guess he...
Oh, yeah, he scubaed away. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he hit on a peninsula.
Where was the purpose of justice when he was scubaing away? That's my question.
Clearly he was needed somewhere else.
Been on the job.
It's a big ocean.
It's true.
Only one purpose. He was busy, Samantha. He can't be everywhere at once. He's not Superman.
It's true. Well, that's it. That concludes season 6, episode 9.
I'm hoping the season's gonna pick up a little bit.
Me too.
This is
dragging. Been a bit of a roller coaster. There's been a few highlights, but a whole lot of lowlights.
Yeah, I would really like someone to make it rain inside right about now.
No kidding.
If only.
Well, do you have something to recommend to our dear listeners?
I do. I feel like it's also not an exciting recommendation, so perhaps it's like the perfect cap to this episode.
Okay.
But I have another chronic pain recommendation that was actually recommended to me by friend of the pod, Alexa. And then I used this product and I went, okay, this is amazing. So Alexa told me to look for the very generically named The Village Company, which almost sounds
like
made
secretly
up.
A cult.
Or it sounds like you would go to that website and you'd be like, this is just phishing. Like, this is just going to steal my information. But it turns out that's not the case. So a company, The Village Company, makes a product called Chronic Pain and Fatigue Body Wash.
Oh.
Which is in a, I think it's a blueberry scent. Let me see here.
Ooh.
I don't really know what the deal with this product is, but it does feel really good. So I'm not even a body wash person, despite being a woman of my age. I prefer a cold processed soap, but there's something about this body wash that's like kind of tingly. And it does feel really good if you have like aching joints or other sorts of pain.
Okay. Maybe I'll get some for my mom. That sounds really nice.
I actually immediately sent some of this to my mom, but so she recommended this product that I think her mom found at like the Burlington Coat Factory.
Okay.
And she said, "Oh, I think you will like this." So I ordered some and I was like, "Oh, this is actually really nice. It's kind of soothing, but obviously it's body wash. It doesn't last a long time.
Sure.
But sometimes just breaking that pain cycle is enough for your like muscles to relax or whatever." But they also sell what I'm really recommending, this chronic pain and fatigue body soak, which is like a salt soak for the bathtub. It also has a blueberry scent. This soak is so helpful.
Oh.
If part of your body aches that will be in the tub, that will be underwater, I really, really recommend this. I've been having so much trouble with my hips lately, and soaking in this in a hot bath for even just like a small amount of time is really helpful. I can't explain why, and maybe just a salt bath of like any kind would be helpful, but this feels really, really good and just like, I don't know. I can't really explain it. It seems like slightly miraculous. I sent this to my mom as well. So it's their chronic pain and fatigue body soak. And there's probably enough for 3 baths in a container. And let's see what that costs. And that costs $7.
Okay.
So it's not that bad. The body wash will last a lot longer. There's a lot that comes in the bottle. It's 20 ounces, and that's also $7.
Nice.
And I've been ordering it directly from the website. The shipping is not bad, particularly considering that these things are like pretty heavy. They do have some other bath soaks. One is for just like cold and allergy. One is to like help you sleep, stuff like that. I haven't tried all those, but maybe that's something that would be more interest to you. I love this.
Is
pain
this
and
a
fatigue
local
body soak.
company? It's telling me it's in Eden Prairie, Minnesota.
Oh, maybe.
Kinda
I have no
looks like
idea.
it.
I have no idea. This has been so helpful for me, and I've been doing it. I don't even really like taking baths, honestly, but if I do this before I go to sleep, I sleep a lot better and I'm a lot less achy. So I would say if that's something that is appealing to you, to give it a try. It's really not very expensive, and I think from just the one packet you'll know whether or not it's something you like. I don't know. Let me know if it works for anybody else, or if this is placebo.
Interesting. This appears to be the company that makes Mr. Bubble.
Yeah, I saw that. They have
Funny.
like, this is in their like more natural line, but they own some
Village
other.
Naturals Therapy. I'm looking at it right now. Okay. Chronic pain and fatigue. I'm gonna order me a bunch of these. I think I know some people that would really like them.
Yeah, they also have one that's just called Aches and Pains Muscle Relief. Maybe I'll try that too. This one looks like it has more of a mentholy scent. But I've had a really good, particularly if you're just like sitting a lot. I think we're all sitting a lot right now. If that's like starting to kind of get to your body and make you achy, you might want to try this. It does have fragrance, so if that's a problem, I'm sorry, but and they list all the ingredients right there on the website, so you can see if there's any allergy.
I like that it's blueberry and not like a floral. I'm kind of sensitive to floral, and I know some people are like that as well. But blueberry sounds so good to me.
And it's not the strongest scent. I mean, you can tell that it's fragrance, but it's not one of those things where you open it up and you're like, oh, whoa, like it's overpowering. Yeah, I think it smells nice, but it's fairly subtle.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know. It's not like an air freshener or something. Right. Where you're just like, I can't handle it.
Yeah, this is a local company. They're in Eden Prairie, Minnesota.
Oh, they're saying this is enough for 9 baths. I used it in 3. I mean,
you were a little generous with it.
Yeah, I guess you're only supposed to put half a cup in, but I mean, it's going to depend on the size of your bathtub too, and like how much water you put in. So, yeah, I have nothing very profound to say about it except that I like it.
It's a great recommendation, actually.
And you can read a bunch of people's reviews. I don't know if they take down the bad reviews, but they all seem pretty positive.
I can't imagine like getting a bad thing of body wash and like taking the time to write a bad review.
Oh, that's true.
But maybe that's just me.
I mean, look, I got time. It's just, whether or not I would have the motivation or energy. Right. The body wash is nice. It just has it has like a slight, almost like tingly sensation that I don't know. like maybe your lower back or something is bothering you, you could give it a try and see if that
Sure.
helps a little bit.
That was a good recommendation.
Is it? Well, I
gonna place
endorse
an
this product. I mean, I ordered it for my own mother, so there you
I'm gonna
go.
place an order for my own mother. So, all right. I really struggled to come up with a recommendation this
It's
week. I feel
getting
like
harder and
it's getting a little
harder.
harder. I'm not doing a lot of new things.
Yeah,
So
I know. If
it's
you
becoming
don't
a little difficult. But I do have something to recommend. And it's a TV show that has been around for a while, I think, but we're just sort of we're a little late to the party, which is true for a lot of TV shows for us, honestly. And it's the glass blowing competition show on Netflix
Oh,
called
sure.
Blown Away.
I watched the first season of that.
Okay, so we started and accidentally started on the second season, so we know who wins the first season, but whatever. I'm really enjoying it. But we love these like creative competition shows, so it was kind of a given that we would like it. But I do find it really relaxing. I find it interesting. They say the word glory hole a lot, which is hilarious.
Yes, they
Um,
sure do. Lots of things about glass blowing are very dirty sounding.
Yes.
Through no fault of their own. I mean, those words had to come from somewhere, and it turns out glass blowing is where they all come from.
Yeah, so we're not finished with the second season, but I will say that I'm really enjoying it. We're learning a lot. I don't know anything about glass blowing, so it's all very interesting to learn. There's like the second season sort of has a villain, not really a villain, but there's just one.
Sure.
You know, some of these competition shows have the one person that's kind of a dick,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're just rooting for them to lose, but they always win each episode. This season kind of has that, and I'm looking forward to his downfall. I don't know, maybe he wins, maybe not, um but I'm really liking it. My only complaint is I wish each episode was a little bit longer. I wish they only
They're
have
very
one.
short, yeah.
They only have, and I guess, I mean, maybe they didn't want to stretch out over multiple days. It doesn't seem like you could do more than one project in a day because it's like 1,000 degrees in this warehouse. They do this. It looks very uncomfortable. But I do wish they had like mini challenges or something, and like they only do like one big challenge and make one big piece each episode. So I kind of wish there was more, but I am enjoying it, and the stuff they make is incredible. I'm like, you made that out of glass? There was one episode where this guy made like a sippy cup and it looked like plastic, but it was made out of
Wow.
glass. It was incredible. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. We're struggling a little bit for new TV, Travis and I. So,
Understandable, yeah.
but we're enjoying this show. So
I enjoyed season 1, like, moderately. I was like, oh, that's fine. You know, I had never mentioned it. There is something kind of soothing about watching the glass get like all stretched out and shaped and
don't you
stuff.
get stressed when they break them though?
Yeah.
It seems like
Well,
every episode
yes.
there's one person who gets their entire piece made, and then they're going to like take it off the thing, the stick thing, and it just shatters. And there was a few times where like we gasped out loud because it was like, oh no, you just spent like 4 hours on that, and it just breaks.
It definitely convinced me that glass blowing is not something I want to do.
Oh no, 100%.
Where I've always thought it was like, you know, beautiful and kind of interesting. Like I would, you know, I was like, oh, maybe one day I'll learn how to do that. And then I watched this and I was like, no, thanks. Yeah, it just seems so hot. And the ability to make a mistake that ruins your whole thing is just too easy.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems too stressful. And then I would feel like too guilty or whatever for having messed it up. And I was just like, there's no way. And yeah, you have to like work with other people, but also like everything's insanely hot and could burn you. So
it definitely
no
would
thanks.
not be the art form for me, but I enjoy watching other people do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's nice to have like art on TV and people talk about art. And I thought a lot of things they made in the first season were honestly really ugly, but
Some of it is definitely not my style. Even things that are very impressive, I'll be like, well, it's not really my style, but I'm impressed by it.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of nice to like hear people talk about their process and you know, I don't know. It's not something we can't really go to the museum right now, so we can bring art into our home in the form of competitive glass blowing reality TV.
There's another show that I haven't like. We didn't keep watching it, but I feel like some people might be interested. It's that cooking show where they make everything out of leftovers.
Oh,
That's on
I haven't seen
Netflix too.
that.
We watched a few episodes. It honestly wasn't super good, but
Bravo years ago tried to make a ripoff of Project Runway that was about art. And I think they only did one season of it. And now I
never
can't.
heard of it.
I can't remember what it's called, but maybe Travis can track that down for you. It was
He
actually
probably
really,
Project
it's
Runway
actually,
is one of his favorite TV shows.
it was actually pretty interesting because it was like all different types of artists were like compete on different challenges, and so you would see like how they would interpret it.
Interesting.
But they didn't do it again. I guess it wasn't that popular. One guy was like going to at one point make chlorine gas as part of his project, and then realized that could kill people.
They were like, "You
So-
can't do. We're not insured for this. You cannot make chlorine gas."
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of cliche things you can say about artists, but some of them kind of are true. And then you go, yeah, you probably shouldn't make chlorine gas as part of your art project.
Probably not a good idea.
God, I think it's just called like work of art or something. It's called something like super generic.
Track that down. We've been watching, thanks to your recommendation, we've been watching Australian MasterChef on Tubi.
Oh,
And thankfully, there's like every season of that show has like 100 episodes. So
in a
that's
way,
not an exaggeration. Like they're literally will have like 80 episodes in a season.
That's amazing.
So
I wish I could. Yeah, that's what I need. I need something with 80 episodes a season to really like get into. There is something about television and like the formula of it and the predictability of it that even if you don't like something, once you've watched a bunch of episodes, you're like, okay, I'm kind of into this now.
It's true.
Or you've gotten into like the rhythm of it, and you're like, no, now I really need to know what happens. Now I'm super invested, even though originally I thought this was pretty stupid. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of our episode.
I think it does.
Another one from the books, from the greatest Unsolved Mysteries rewatch podcast the world has ever known. This was Perhaps It's You. So we have a website, perhapsitsyou.com. You can find our recommendations there. You can also find our sweet merch there, like information about our zine, or you could order some sweatshirts with a cool illustration of us on it. Look, there's a lot of options. You're going to want to go over there. There's also our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our Facebook groups where people chat about stuff. What else, Samantha?
Patreon. If you have a few extra dollars burning a hole in your pocket, we have a back catalog of over 30 episodes on Patreon, and it only costs you $1 a month. So go check it out. It's patreon.com/perhapsitsyou. We're doing paranormal home inspectors this month. We've got some exciting plans. I feel like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel a little more like burst of motivation towards our Patreon now that we're over the Unsolved Mysteries reboot.
I have to agree, particularly doing something like paranormal home inspectors, which is a little more lighthearted than talking about stolen children. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about some possibly haunted homes in Canada as some a nice break from gruesome murder and horrible things. Look, we're never doing a Patreon episode about the orphan train. You know what I mean?
No.
Okay.
What if the next round of reboot episodes have an orphan train? We would just
we'll just be like, look,
can't do it.
We'll have to get a guest. Gotta make it a guest do it. That's our.
We're not even on the episode. It's just someone else.
Yeah, that's our mode of operation. Is there anything else that we need to say?
Give us a 5-star review. Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe button so hard you break your phone. I think that's pretty much everything. So we will be back. I mean, probably next week, but I don't even really want to promise.
We're not gonna make any guarantees, but
yeah, we'll be back at some point to kill you with our deadly vocal cords. Until then, stay home, stay safe, solve mysteries from your couch.
Bye.
Bye.